Paul, these are tough times for all of us. I've just been thinking how you must be feeling what happened at Accrington and football management, very much in the public domain. How is Paul Tisdale?
I've been consumed by by my job here for the last 24 hours on what we do next and how we get ourselves going. So there hasn't been much time to think about myself, to be honest, just about what we do next. So it's been a tough 24 hours following Tuesday night's dismal display. And as in any season or any week in football, it's all about the next thing. You've got to quickly get yourself onto the next task. Recognise the important factors in last week's game or yesterday's game. You have to move forward. So I've very much been focused on those things, Jeff.
Okay, good. Diagnosis solution is 8 games without a win, 7 defeats in those 8 games. In blunt terms, Paul, what's wrong with your team and how do you correct it?
Well, we've got to do the basics better. We've lost a rhythm that we had leading up to Christmas. A couple of those games have been cup games, Jeff, but there has been a poor run of games. Tuesday, of course, it culminated in a horror show, really, in terms of the performance. We've been looking at the January transfer window to give us some opportunity, or give me some opportunity. We made a signing or two, maybe not got what we wanted. The club has tried really hard and supported to get me what I feel I need. But the reality is we now have the windows closed. We need to get ourselves back into some kind of rhythm. There's some basics within our performances we need to improve, but we do need to find a rhythm. And we've got a squad of players who have been signed by the club and need to show that responsibility to their employer, to their supporters, and it sort of starts now. So what do I need to do? I need to encourage the players to understand the significance of their role. I need to help them with some direction, and maybe simple's best sometimes. And we're at a point where simple is possible, and it's possibly the best course of action. And we don't want to confuse things too much. And we have to show, as a squad, as a group, as a team on the pitch, we have to show actions which reflect the importance of matches we play for Bristol Rovers Football Club.
Yeah. Are the players with you, Paul? When you look them in the eye in the dressing room, are they with you?
Yes. And now they've got to show it on the pitch.
That's good. The defensive aspect, open play and set plays. Do you need this is not an offer, by the way, but it's a question. Do you need expertise? Do you need people to come in, or someone to come in and help them?
Something has to change. I don't think we're lacking necessarily the expertise to make our players or make the unit defend better. There's a number, and it's not a case of just signing new defenders, for example. It's a case of the team defends from the front, attacks from the back. It's one unit. Yeah. And no matter what system or shape you play, when it comes to a set play, that's now detached from the system, because you'll go back and your job is to defend. And it's as much a mentality as it is a technical exercise. And there's been the odd goal or two. Maybe it's one that a team has scored against us that has been of good play, but generally we have not been good enough. I don't think it's something that's a quantum shift. I think it's one or two changes in focus possibly, and I don't think it's inconceivable that we'll sort this out very quickly, but we do need to do it. So to answer your question, no, I don't think we need to offer the players advice, technical advice. They need to go out and they need to defend their goal. And it's as simple as that. So we've been good at the other end on set pieces over the last month. We've been shocking defensively, and I've never had that before. I've always prided myself in the teams I've had, been in the top 5 or 6 teams every year on set pieces, defensively and in defence. So this is a shock to my system. And I have no doubt that in time it will rectify.
Yeah. Does your approach to the players change? I remember getting walked once for Rovers, and Bobby Gould was a manager, and I was walking to the training ground, and I thought, oh my goodness, I was walking to go right past him, and I opted not to say morning gaffer, and he told me off. He said, listen, we got hammered Saturday, but it doesn't matter. We're in this together. We've got to get out of this together. How does your attitude, does it change at all with the players after a night like Tuesday?
Every week in football is different, Jeff. And I've had 750 league EFL games, and I've won and I've lost and I've drawn. And every game requires a different response. Depends on the dynamic of the game, the personalities, how it feels. So there's more than one way of doing this. What I do have to achieve is I have to make sure that you draw a line on a bad result. You must understand what you need to do next. There's no point punishing people or going back and spending time over something that's just happened at the expense of talking about what comes next and what we have to do next. So as I said at the start of our conversation, you have to understand the significance of what's just happened. My job is to achieve success going forward and make sure that I give the players the best opportunity to do that. Now, some players respond in different ways to others, Jeff, and you'll know that, of course. But as a rule, it doesn't always apply that the better we play, the happier I am, and the worse we play, the madder I go. You know, it's not that black and white. You know, my job now as the manager is to get the best response possible on Saturday at Fleetwood, no matter how I do it. And every player is different, and that's for me that's behind closed doors, and that's what I've done all my career, and I'll find the best way to do that.
I know you're under pressure because you're a football manager. Are you under any increased pressure from the boardroom since Tuesday?
I think under pressure every game, as you've just said. Results dictate. Results are king. But I've come in to help. I've been here 10 weeks. I've come in, invariably as a manager, you come in when things haven't quite been working. It's my job It's my job to find a better solution than we'd had before. Maybe I found I had a quick turnaround, maybe too quick in the first month, and it seemed like we were flying. And I was reticent even then, get too ahead of myself, because you know it's a long way from being the style that I will ultimately put on that pitch. But you know, we've got good people in the building. We've got a group of players that want to do well, and I've got to get the best from these players in this period of time between now and the end of the season to get ourselves a safe position in League One. Now, you know, I think as a manager, you put pressure on yourself. You always want to win the next game. And there's a reason why managers say the most important game is the next game, because it always is. It's a cliche because it's true. The next game is important. And I'm under no illusions how difficult professional football is, because the other team want to win just as much as we do. They've got mortgages to pay. They've got contracts to play for. We're all doing the same thing. You have to be able to deal with the rough and the smooth. Sometimes the toughest days become the simplest days because you have clarity on what you need to do next. And maybe that's today is one of those days.
Sure. I mean, you mentioned that vast experience, 750 plus games. You're the motivator. Who motivates the motivator when times are challenging for you? Who helps you through the likes of this?
Have you heard me say that before? Because that's what I say. You must have heard. I must have said that.
No,
before,
I haven't actually. Jeff. In all seriousness, no, I haven't. No.
Yeah, well, I've actually challenged the players with that. I'm just thinking you said it so well. I'm thinking you heard me say it.
Oh, no, I haven't. No.
I mean, it's a challenge. It's a challenge that I've set the players a couple of times, and I said we all, you know, you all sit there and you're in a team. You expect the coach to motivate you, and you know that's the conventional way of a team talk, that the manager stands there and gives you some kind of rousing speech. Well, the reality is every single football match you play over a long period of time, that's not always the case. And I say to them, well, actually, you've got to motivate me. The players need to motivate me to believe in them. It's a very subtle way of saying they need to put a performance on the pitch that gives the manager a chance to believe in them. You know, it's not just for the manager to tell everyone what to do all the time and go left, go right, go forward, play to A, play to B. Okay, there's got to be a fundamental fundamental framework in the way we play, directed by the decision maker. But they've got to enthuse me with the way they act, with the way they think, with the way they move, with the way they react to situations. And I've challenged them in exactly the same way. Are you going to motivate me? Because, I've got to believe in you. They will do that by the way they play. And they won't always get it right. And I don't mind players making mistakes, but I've got to see it. I've got to see it in the way they move and think.
I get all that. It's almost irrelevant, but it's highly relevant. Fleetwood Saturday, no wins in 8. Racing in charge for the first time. What are your thoughts going to the Highbury Stadium?
Both teams need a win, eh? There we are. As simple as that. We come up against it. Again, I just said it earlier. We're professional people playing a professional sport, and the next game's always the most important. And, Grayson wants to do well for his career. Those players want to do well for their next contract. There is never a need. There should never be a need for a player to need the manager to tell them how important the game is. So I'm expecting Fleetwood to be of that ilk this week, and we have to be ready. That what happens if the first 5 minutes of the game just happens to be their best 5 minutes that they've got? We have to be ready for it. So what am I expecting? A team that's had poor form, that's changed the manager. That does open up what could happen next a little bit more than normal. So it makes it harder to predict exactly what will happen. But we just have to expect the next 5 minutes to be their best 5 minutes, and that's how we have to think.
And is it about not losing? Winning is a bonus. Not losing is probably a prerequisite.
It helps. It helps, not to lose. I mean, we go into a game with a point, I suppose. And we don't concede. We've got a point unless we score another. But I think generally, if the truth be known, after a performance like Tuesday, it's about how we react and the performance we put in. And I'm not saying the result's not important. Of course, it's hugely important. But in terms of the way we react and how the players apply themselves on the pitch, that's the first thing we have to consider. Because there needs to be a reaction. And again, I talk about that, their actions being a reflection of how important the moment is. So that's what I'm asking first. We can't just say we want a result. We've got to know how to do it. And the first thing I'm saying this week is to think and act correctly.